Welcome, dear students. The current session focuses on Australian English, and it will provide you some insights into the nature of speakers and the demographics of the area. I hope by the end of the session you would be able to understand how English was transplanted in Australia and what is its nature there. Well, my dear students, on the screen you can see a map of Australia, and you can see this is a large piece of land. In fact, it was by 1783 that the 13 colonies in America were lost for Britain rule. However, with this loss, there was no end to the use of English, and English was not thrown out. Now, this was the time for the British Empire to expand itself. And as they made efforts to expand, English also spread across the globe. This was taken to other continents such as Australia, Africa, and Asia from that time point onwards. Well, my dear students, Australia's original inhabitants, the Australian Aborigines, have the longest continuous cultural history in the world, having begun to inhabit this vast island from 40,000 to 70,000 years ago. In fact, the first known Europeans to reach the continent we now call Australian were the Portuguese. The Portuguese and Dutch sailors who came here actually in the 16th century. Well, initially it was known as Nova Hollandia, New Holland. If you look at the screen, Nova Hollandia, which means New Holland. The name Australia, in fact, is derived from a Latin term, terra australis incognita, unknown southern land, because till that time point it was yet to be discovered. It was unknown to the British empire. Then it seemed to Europeans that logically there must be a great southland to balance the weight of the northern landmass of Europe and Asia. And, this is again a very interesting insight into, the historical perspective on geography. Expeditions were made, they were dispatched, people were sent to discover, and among them the 3 voyages of James Cook in the quest of this southern land are very, very important historically. In fact, British settlement in Australia began slightly later after the American War of Independence. The expansion of British influence and power continued at even a greater speed during the 19th century. And, this was a time when English actually flourished there. However, when we go back and we look at the 18th century events and happenings, it was in 1768 that Lieutenant Cook was sent on this scientific expedition to the Pacific to convey members of the Royal Society to Tahiti to observe the transit of the planet Venus across the sun. The mission was accomplished, it was completed. Cook was to find the unknown southern continent that I have already referred to. This was a task that took him to Australia. This was the first endeavor where, the settlement of people, the British people in Australia actually began. By the way, this is just a picture to interest you. This is painted picture of the particular endeavor, the voyage that was sent. In fact, it was named as the Endeavour. That is painted here as a picture. Anyways, Cook navigated the coast of New Holland, which he claimed for Great Britain under the name of New South Wales. This was the name that he gave. It was Cook and his men, including the famous botanist Joseph Banks, who later made white settlements in Australia possible. Had this voyage not taken place, probably the settlement of the British in Australian lands would not have happened. When it comes to the name Australia, well, there are certain terms that are used for casual, informal use. Australia is a young nation, and the Commonwealth of Australia was formed from the combination of states only in 1901. And actually, the Australian Capital Territory was later established for a new capital, Canberra, that is now the capital of Australia. During the First World War, Aussie, that is pronounced as Aussie, Z sound, or sometimes it is, written as OZ, like this, OZ as well, as a short form that is for both the noun Australian and the adjective, For example, Aussie people, which would, mean Australian people. Here it is used as an adjective. These days, this is regularly used, OZ. This is written like this as well and used as a very informal way of, referring to Australia. But this is a regular pattern of usage. Well, my dear students, although English has been spoken in Australia for more than 200 years, Australian English as a variety began to be seriously recognized, only after the Second World War. So, it took almost 200 years for this language to get its roots settled here in Australia. And now, after the Second World War, through the last almost 1 century, it is well established as a variety.